What's up, man?
Yo.
Hold on, let me get this Bluetooth off.
Oh, good. I gotta set my. I always have to adjust.
All right, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Man, I'm in the car. My lighting kind of trash.
It's all good. It's all good.
We'll make it work.
Yeah,
What's good with
yeah. Ain't nothing, man. You know, it's Friday. I'm off tonight, so I cooked on the grill, cooked some hamburgers and some steaks. You know how that go.
Yeah.
So yeah. Real quick, let me do my intro. Tonight is you prefer minister or reverend?
I don't matter, man. You just call me Kenton. You know
Okay,
me.
so we got my man Kenton. Kenton is a minister. So tonight we're gonna chop it up with him about anything that he wants to chop it up about. I know him pretty well. He's a good friend and a co-worker, somebody that I go to advice for, sometimes spiritual. You know, sometimes it might be work related or it might just be an opinion on something that I'm interested in his opinion about. So we give the soft clap for the minister.
Yes, sir.
Wiley, welcome to What's Up With You. So, my man.
Yo.
What's up with you? What's going on? What's up with your life? How's life going for you?
Man, life is good right now. I'm at sitting at the dance studio doing the dad thing. My oldest, Kalia, she's 12. She, back now we're done with the pandemic, so they back in the classroom. So it's back on the highway, just humping it a little bit. And Kenton back in basketball tomorrow, so it's back on the grind. I ain't even gonna lie. I know the COVID joint is serious, but I like that virtual life. It definitely got more time at home and a lot more rest, man. Now it's like, man, we needed that year and a half of rest for real.
Yeah. It's. I think, I think we think of the pandemic as something. Of course, it's a lot of negative because a lot of people passed away, a lot of people got sick. But that's one of the things I like to ask people is, what positive came from it. And I know for me personally, like it was just the ability to spend more time with family. It was more peaceful. The air was a little bit better for a second there. So there's some positives to it too.
I definitely think, like you said, like anything that costs people lives, you're always gonna have the negative. But I think a lot of positive came out of the pandemic. Pushed my wife into entrepreneurship. She started her braid business, and that flipped my way of thinking into, we actually can run a business. I grew up, it was like college, military, or job. Running a business, starting a business wasn't even on the table,
Right.
But now it's like, you can run a business. We can get some of these tax write-offs, that, some of these other people have been getting for years, and like we can be successful, and it doesn't take, the road to travel isn't as hard as maybe we may have thought it may be. You do this, you can start something for real. I'm saying you can do it. I was listening to Chance the Rapper the other day. Bama said he made $6 million off his hats alone in 1 year with the six.
With some hats.
Yo, with the 3 on the front, and he said he paid $6 for the hats. He said he made $1 million a year. Now, granted, his platform is huge, but still, $1 million on hats.
Right.
With a 3 on the front, bro. We're not talking about no major graphics.
Right.
So it's bread to be made. And I learned that with the pandemic. If you want to get out and hustle, you can do it.
Well, I agree. I think that joint made a lot of people tap into their own creativity. I think it made us realize that we can't completely depend on big business and big government to pull us through every time. You know what I'm saying?
Nah.
But let me ask you this: like, how did you deal with the pandemic in terms of your faith?
With faith, I look at it from a scriptural perspective. I understand the Bible teaches in Matthew that sickness and disease are going to always be with us, just like the poor going to always be with us. And when you look at it when I think about faith, I try not to put myself in the American box. I try to look at God serves the world, not just America. So when you think globally, pandemic's been happening around the world forever.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands of people die in Africa every year from some bug disease.
Right.
It just doesn't make MSNBC or CNN because we're not over there. You look at other foreign countries who deal with, quote unquote pandemics on a regular basis. That's why nobody seems to be complaining about masks and all the requirements but Americans. No other country is complaining. It was like, Put the mask on, bro. We've been doing this in China for a decade. Dudes been wearing masks in China since the smog for decades. So they not complaining. We the ones complaining.
Right.
You know, so from a faith perspective, you know, it does, because I did have some family members pass away from COVID. You know, I had some people, you know, close to us to pass away, and so I know it's real. You know, seeing some of the effects of it, you know, firsthand. So it's definitely, you know, a real virus. Ain't nobody gonna knock that, you know. But I don't think it didn't change my faith, you know. It's no different, you know. It's just another layer to your prayer, if you will. You know, you just now you praying for the, you know, you praying for the flu season, you praying for this disease. Now you're like, well, by the way, God, protect us from the new thing going on. You know, while you at it, go ahead and protect us from the COVID too. Toss it on the back, you know, go ahead and protect the kids from that too. It's just another layer that you add to your prayer life, you know.
Right.
I just think this country has never experienced, you know, mass casualty, you know, on this particular level where it's been publicized. You know, I think that it's hard to. Social media obviously played a major part, you know, all of this. 10 years ago, we wouldn't even, this wouldn't even be like on the table. You would have heard about it in passing, and that would be it, because it wouldn't have been another big deal, because you wouldn't have all these, you know, resources and all these other stuff coming out about it, you know. So social media definitely plays a major part. But as far as faith, my faith's still the same. It ain't changed.
Yeah, I know. For me, I think it's deep in my faith, or, you know, my relationship with the one, especially with the amount of government and corporate overreach into our lives. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to tap into that inner faith and make the decisions that you need to make for yourself, as opposed to, you know, what just being pushed around or being told what to do. You know, that's for those of us who believe in a higher power and things of that nature. Let me ask you this: how do you balance, you know, being a minister and also, you know, your day job? How do you contend with those two things?
Well, it's definitely a balance. I think just using COVID as an example, it kind of pushed ministry out the box. So allowed us to really tap into the virtual world. So being that the virtual platforms have grown so much, it allows me to do a lot more in advance. You know, so now don't get me wrong, it's definitely a balancing act, because with the ministry that we started, my wife and I, you know, over the summer, you know, everything right now is virtual. You know, I'm not even anticipating looking for a physical location, at least for a year or two, because it's a roll of the dice because of the pandemic. So I wouldn't want to put the church in a financial bind. You know, I just don't think that's wise right now. But so primarily, you know, it's a scheduling thing comes down to. So I know that if I'm gonna do a midweek service or a Sunday service or the podcast, you know, I have to put those on specific days throughout the week, and I do a lot of pre-recording, you know, and that's kind of how I'm able to balance it. But it's definitely, it's honestly, it's no different than when I was driving to the church. So that 30 minutes that I'm using driving back and forth to the church, I'm just pre-recording stuff. You know, so it's the same time being spent. It's just not being spent up and down the highway, if you will.
Yeah, so you're getting to save a little bit of gas money too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that works. What's your favorite Bible story or passage? Like, what's your go-to joint?
You know, man, I got so many, man. But you know, I think the go-to one I like is always with David, when he fooled around with Shorty on the balcony. You know, because when you think about David, God called David the apple of his eye. Means, David was like one of his favorite kings. You know, and David, you know, he saw Shorty on the balcony. He was like, yo, she looked good. He kept looking. Finally, he was like, yo, he sent his maid servant, yo, go holler at her real quick, you know, and I want to holler. They was like, yo, she got a husband. He at war. He was like, I feel you, but bring it through. I'm the king. He's like, yo, I'm the king, son. So he took Shorty's husband, was like, he wrote the letter, was like, yo, put him on the front line and make sure he get killed so I can get his wife.
The dirty game.
So when I think about a man like that, I say, God, that's the apple of your eye? Son, I got hope. my man conspired to kill her husband, and he's a king, took Shorty off the balcony, and God said, yeah, I feel you, but he's still the apple of my eye. I said, well, look, man, we don't have no excuse. Basically what it tells me is, I don't have to be perfect to do this.
Right.
I don't have to be perfect, you know. So that's one of my favorite stories because it just lets me know that ain't nobody perfect. Even the apple of God's eye had a dude killed and took his wife. It ain't justified, but it happened.
Right.
You know, so that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's I don't know that one as well as I know some of the other ones. I've read the Bible and I've studied the words of Christ and things of that nature. So I didn't necessarily retain all of the stories. I know that I like the story about Joseph. Joseph was the one with the brothers and they and all of that. They kind of got mad at him or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
It's funny though, because like with the Bible, I kind of noticed that there's a bit of similarities in certain stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's a similarity between Joseph and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. So I've always thought that was pretty interesting. What would you say is the most important word of Christ from the Bible? Like which one of his teachings or his parables do you think is the one that really, hits the nail on the head?
I think the one that really drives home is his teaching on forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And that teaching basically says, if you can't forgive people, my Father not going to forgive you.
Mm.
And you can't enter into heaven with unforgiveness in your heart. So I tell people all the time, just because you forgive people don't mean you got to rock with them. You can forgive people and love them from a distance. You don't even have to forgive them in person, as long as you forgive them in your heart. So, and the reason that one drives home to me is because at the end of the day, Jesus said, I forgave all of mankind before y'all were even born. He said, I already knew you guys were going to mess up. And the scriptures tell you that, he took all the sins and he put it in his body, inside his body. That's why he was grieving on the cross, because he took on the sins of the world. He said, I'm going to forgive y'all before y'all even mess up.
Right.
So I think that's like, when it comes down to the Christian faith, at least, I believe that the two major roots of the Christian faith is forgiveness and love. Right. If you can understand that it's about forgiveness and love, I think, that's the basis of the Christian faith. All the other bells and whistles that man has added and confused people, I think it really made, the faith confusion. It really, it got into the money stuff and they get rich quick and all that type of stuff. But the basic roadmap of the Christian faith is forgiveness and love.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So I come to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my ears itching.
I got you.
I come to you and I say, I'm having a problem forgiving, a friend for something that they did.
Mm-hmm.
What does that process look like? What advice do you give me or you give someone to help them forgive? Because forgiveness is a very difficult thing to do.
Forgiveness is very, very difficult, depending on what the situation is. So I always try to get a full picture of what happened. I'm not a big fan of people reliving, bad situations. But sometimes you can't really move forward if you don't revisit your past.
Mm-hmm.
You have to open those doors and address them. If you don't, eventually, it's like garbage, man. You leave it in the closet long enough, it's going to start smelling. So from a basic process of someone who is struggling with forgiveness, I always like to see what the scenario is. And then I like to see what are the pros and the cons of you forgiving and not forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Unforgiveness has been linked to depression, has been linked to strokes, heart attacks, stress. It's all been linked to unforgiveness, man. Harboring unforgiveness at the root is unhealthy. It's unhealthy. So I asked a man or a woman, I said, okay, if you continue to live in this unforgiveness, it's going to begin to deteriorate you mentally, physically, and going back to what we just said, your forgiveness is connected to, in the Christian faith, is connected to your relationship with your Heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. It's all connected, you know. And sometimes, like I use, you know, say, you know, a lot of men, their fathers weren't in their home. They were deadbeat dads or whatever. And even for women, I said, well, they be like, you know, I just, you know, my father, you know, he never was there, whatever. I said, well, I know he's not here. I said, but you got to forgive him. It's like, I'm not forgiving that dude. He was a bum, beat on my mom. I'm not forgiving him. So I tell him the way like I've been taught. You got to grab a chair, sit that chair in front of you. Imagine that your father is there, your friend is there that owe you that bread, whoever is there, that drunk driver who killed your mom, sit in that chair. And I say, look, yo, give him the blues. I'm not telling you to cuss the dude out. I said, whatever you need to do to get it out your heart, you got to get it out your heart. And then you have to walk in. You have to walk in that I forgive the person. That don't mean you're not gonna think about it. It's not magic, man. I tell people, faith ain't magic, man. People looking for some magic, some miracle. They looking for some miracle juice. They're like, okay, I'm gonna forgive them, and it's just gonna disappear out my mind. Our bodies are too complex for that. We have memories.
Yeah,
we're too complex for that. I'm saying if we could just speak it and forget it, bro, we'd be golden.
Yeah, with the men in, hit yourself with the Men in Black joint. They call it the neuralizer.
You know, if we could do that, man, look, imagine how many people wouldn't be in the grave if we could do that.
Yeah,
you know. So when I talk to people about forgiveness, I said just get it out of you. Whatever you gotta do to get it out of you. You know, whether it's a father, it's a mother, it's a kid, whatever it is, you got to get it out of you. You know, because I think that, you know, you will, unforgiveness will really, it physically will wear you down, man. You know, so that's my method, you know, of helping people get through unforgiveness is getting it out of you. You know, whatever you got to do, get it out of you, you know. And that's how I feel like that's one way to deal with it. And for real, I know the church don't really talk about it a lot, you know, but the church is really a spiritual location. And let's just keep it 100. You know, I tell people sometimes you might have to get some therapy. You might have to get some counseling. You know, I said, you know, that, you know, unless your pastor is a therapist or a psychologist, sometimes you have to get professional help. And I took this counseling class that said, you know, as a pastor and as a leader, you have to know when your spiritual counseling you have to have enough knowledge to know that where your spiritual counseling stops and they need professional help.
Okay.
You got to know that bridge. If you don't know that bridge, there's a lot of people walking around who say, well, my pastor counseled me, but they didn't know they needed to push you to that next level. If you're an alcoholic, as a pastor, I can tell you, you got to stop drinking. You got to change the people you're hanging with, the place you're dealing with. But I'm going to be like, this the pamphlet for AA. Because
like you need way more like practical help.
Practical, man. Right. And the church is so afraid just to tell people the truth, man. You need practical counseling. A lot more of these mega churches are starting to add professional counselors and psychologists and therapists to their staff because they realize that you need practical, real life scenarios like Baltimore, like where I live, through this impoverished area infested with drugs and poverty and guns and murder. You need practical counseling. I can't just be like, well, yo, just pray about it, man, and God gonna put some food in the refrigerator. Man, that's a lie, bro.
Yeah.
It's a lie. Nah, bro, you gotta get a job. You know what I mean? If you don't stop selling dope, you probably gonna get murdered. Let me just keep it real with you. You know what I'm saying? The power in the house is off, it's cold, you know, because ain't nobody working. You gotta just tell people the truth, man. You know, so that's how I feel about that.
Okay, cool. I know one of the things that I like to do for forgiveness and just deal, like if I'm triggered about something, is kind of like a journal. It's not really a journal, but like the notes app on your phone, your iPhone, or whatever. I'll just write it all out. and it doesn't have to be grammatically correct. It's not something that's going to be published. It's just a matter of getting the thoughts and emotions out of my physical being,
get it out
and
out
into, you know, out into space. And I find even afterwards, it just feels like, oh man, I feel lighter. I feel better. You know what I'm saying?
If you look
that's definitely something that's important, is forgiveness. Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
What do you, in terms of like you talked about some of the problems, and you know, from where you're from, and you know, up in Baltimore and stuff like that. What role do you think marriage can play in improving conditions, and, you know, whether it's the Black community or the poor communities and stuff like that?
You said marriage?
Yeah, like marriage. Like how okay, so I saw a statistic that said that if you're Black and you're married, you have a 94% chance of escaping poverty, right? So that kind of tells me that you know, the route out of poverty is marriage. Right? So how do we use that knowledge to improve the conditions that come along with poverty?
Yeah, I think that's a twofold question, because you have marriage, which is one side of that coin, and then you have financial knowledge as another side of that coin. You know, because there are plenty of people who are married, but they're still poor because they don't have the other side of that coin, which is how to use marriage as with financial knowledge. You know, so as far as how can a marriage help improve, or how does marriage help improve, is it creates a level of stability. You know, we both know we're in this area where we know it's almost impossible to buy a home with one income.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible, man. There's a reason they're building more apartments than they are single family homes. Yeah. Because they know that it's very, very challenging. So the marriage unit, when it has a good foundation, the mom and dad are on the same page, I think create an environment, not only financially, but for their family and for the community, that supports that community. You know, because anytime, you know, like, you know, the Bible says where there are two or three gathered, he's in the midst. Okay? So I believe when you got one and two, a husband and wife gathered, God's in the midst, and he supplies and he builds and develops. Not to say you can't do that if you're single, not to say he's not there when you're single, but I believe that example demonstrates that even God understands it takes two. Right. He said, I rock with you when two of y'all show up and agree, we can roll forward. Right. But I need two people to agree. But the reason I think in the home that the marriage is not doing what it was designed to do, which was to empower the community, the two people in the home don't agree. So if the two people in the house don't agree, they better off being single.
So let me ask you this, because that makes a question pop into my head. Why do you think it's such a problem with people with husbands and wives and marriages, the disagreements? Because I think, what is it, like something like 50% of marriages in America end in divorce, right? So why is that happening?
50% of marriages in America end in divorce, and I think it's about 55 of them end in divorce in the Christian church. So it has nothing to do with faith. It's about knowledge. Right. It's about knowledge. Most of us, you and I, okay, we about to be 40 or whatever. Our example of marriage was either seen by our parents or on TV. Those were the two examples we had. No one really taught us what marriage really is. What is the role of the man? Other than what we see on TV, the role of the man has always been you go to work and bring the bacon home. The role of the woman is cook, clean, raise the kids. Well, in 2021, the woman is making 50% more money than the man. You got more men cleaning floors and washing dishes than you do have women. Right. So when you ask the question, why is the percentages like that? Well, the other percentage you got to toss in there is, I think around over half of most divorces are filed by women. Okay. So the women are the ones predominantly filing for divorce. Like the women are the ones filing for divorce. You know, what happens there is, if you don't understand as a man what your role is, all you're going to do is what you've been taught. And a woman, if you don't understand what your role is, and I use the word role loosely, all you're going to do is what you've been taught. Now, if you guys have been taught two different things of what a marriage is, how can you agree?
Right.
You can't agree. I'm from the South. My wife is from this area, you know, so our perspective on marriage was slightly different. So we had to get an understanding of what do you expect from me and what do I expect from you? And then we decide, are we willing to do that? I think a lot of people get married because, as we say, love is blind. A lot of people get married because they just love each other. You know, but you and I both know, I'm saying love is great, bro. But you know, but love don't hold it down forever.
Right.
At some point, you guys have to agree on some natural things other than love.
Right.
Like
how we gonna raise the kids.
Yeah, like how we gonna raise the kids.
Right.
Like, you know, how we gonna raise the kids? Like, me and my wife had the discussion. Well, I was gonna do public school. She was like, nah, we doing private school. So that was a conversation we had to have. She had her argument, I had my argument. You know, so we went to an orientation at the public school. My argument quickly phased out when I was like, bro, this ain't gonna work, son. I was like, God.
Hey, you was right. You know what I'm saying?
I was like, yo, you was right.
You was right about this one.
You was right about this one. This one ain't gonna work, man. This one ain't gonna work. So you got this one. Round one. Ding, ding, bro. You got it.
We got a 10-9 round for Mrs. Wiley.
Yeah, you got it, man. But I think a lot of, like, I counsel a lot of people who before they get married, and I'm gonna be honest with you, most people who come in and want to get married, they have two different thoughts on what marriage really is. Okay. You know, they really do. I asked the man, you know, how often you think you should have sex? Yo, we need to have sex like 7 days a week. The wife was like, man, it ain't happening. You know, we're looking at maybe 2, maybe 3. We got a problem. We gotta negotiate. But say you don't cross that bridge and you get married, and now your husband expecting sex 7 days a week, and then you throwing the wife throwing the elbow. Now he like, man, you tripping. You don't ever give me none. Now y'all got a problem. Right. You know, so you have to. That's why I always tell people, before you get married, go through some form of either natural counsel or spiritual counsel. And I'm not talking about, when I talk about the church, I criticize the church because a lot of pastors just take a check and give these couples, you know, a week worth of counsel, and then they get married and wonder why they in divorce or why they always fighting and arguing. You ain't helped them. You ain't give them the truth. You gave them something real quick because you was like, well, I'd rather them be married than be out here fornicating. Nah, I'd rather them be out here fornicating than you marry them and then they now divorced and got another blended split family and kids who got to go to dad one weekend and mom another weekend because you was a lazy leader. Yo, they lazy, bro. They lazy, man. You know. That's deep. I'm telling, it's like, yo, you're a lazy leader. If you don't empower, most people, if they had real good counseling, wouldn't get married. Because they'll realize we love each other, but we're not as compatible as we think. The reason Match.com works is because it has nothing to do with love. It's about character and personality. It has nothing to do with love at all. And marriage, love is a percentage, just like sex is a percentage, but it's not a large percentage of the pie. Right. If you look at marriage 10 years in, and you take a percentage of how much of this marriage actually is sex, bro, it's like maybe 15%, maybe. Once you throw in kids, finances, buying a house, getting a car, utilities, dance, basketball, your job, my job, you know, once you throw in all that other stuff into the marriage bowl, what we think was going to be important when we said I do, it's such a small percentage of the whole pie. And this is why I think marriage is struggle, because the man had one way that he thought the marriage was going to be, the wife had another way, and then what they never realized is they were traveling on 2 different roads. Yeah. So now you got to go through therapy, and now you got to get a therapist to help you get on the same road. Right. Now the question is, how far in the woods did you go, and how far are you willing to travel backwards to fix what's been broken? That's a lot. That's a lot to ask. You know what I'm saying? Yo, you 10 years in, and you've been in the woods, you 10 years down the road, are you willing to travel back 10 years to fix it?
Nah, most people just cut bait.
They just cut bait.
Just cut bait. It's easier for me to find the other way to keep going this way and figure out what's on the other side of the woods.
It's easier for me to cut. It's easier for me to build another trail than to walk back through the mud I created.
Right. Yo, that's interesting, man. Like, I think something you said is really important in terms of love not being the overwhelming factor in a successful marriage, because I think that we have been socially conditioned to think of love as being enough.
Yeah, we have.
And it's like you like it's a typical response to why do you stay is because I love her or because I love him.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a whole lot of other things. And I don't think anyone goes into marriage knowing everything that you're gonna, run into. But finances, kids, all of that stuff is very, very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening.
No. I said, yeah, it's a lot, man. No one knows it all. It's
right.
just like, we were taught, well, if you get a high school diploma or a college degree, you'll be good. That ain't true. You still okay. Now I got the college degree, I got the high school diploma, whatever the case may be. But you know what? I don't even know how to interview, so now I still can't get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So
you gotta have it all.
Yeah. So I love her. He loves me. He got a good job. I got a good job. We good. No, we're not. I just did a podcast on I love her, but we need to sleep in separate beds. I did a whole podcast on that because a lot of people they're like, well, I didn't know their sleeping habits was like that. That's why we got the new school way is I gotta ride the bike before I get married. That's the new school way of thinking. Most people ride the bike, play house for a little while before they get married because they're afraid scripturally to get married without knowing what's under the hood, if you will, or what kind of personality they are, if you will. And
yeah, I gotta test drive this joint.
Yeah, I don't agree with the philosophy, but I understand why people do this.
Right.
Because it's easy. It's easy to wear a mask, for a year or two. It's easy, man. I'm saying, it's just easy to do. People got whole fake lives on social media.
Yeah.
And I know them personally, and I know they don't live like that.
Right.
So it's marriage is so important to me because I understand the work it takes to put in, but it's just such a, I think the church, from my perspective, has failed a lot of new couples because they lazy. They just want people to get married so they stop sinning. Yeah, I want you to get married so you stop sinning, but I also want you to succeed.
Right. Right.
Why is there a 50% failure rate of marriages in the house of God? Yeah,
that's crazy.
Bro, it's facts.
I didn't know that. If I had guessed, I would have, like, if you asked me, say, okay, well, we both know the divorce rate in America is 50-some%. What do you think it is in the church? I probably would say, I don't know, 30. You know what I'm saying? 30, 35.
But you gotta think, everybody who quote unquote in the world, they in the church. So it's not like it's magical people in the church.
Yeah, they just humans.
They just humans. Now, you would hope that being in the church, you would get more information and more knowledge on how to make your marriage last.
Right.
But it's hard to make blanket statements because obviously I don't know everything going on in churches. But you don't often see a whole lot of marriage retreats.
Yeah.
A couple retreats or things to enhance or build or develop the marriage. I'm not saying there's not, but it's not as, popular, on the platform. And honestly, man, a lot of Christians are ashamed that their marriage is trash. Because they feel like, I'm supposed to be the example. Well, I go back to the story of David. David was the king. Killed a dude, took his wife.
Right. But that also means he was willing to accept that which he had within him that wasn't right, too. So, I mean, like you said, you don't have to be, I look at it like this, and this is applicable to marriage or just life in general. You don't have to be the perfect. You don't have to be perfect at something to be the example. Sometimes you being the not good thing could be the example because you come out of the other side of it like, hey, I made it through this. So that's real important. Go ahead.
Perfection is not a
requirement.
Not a requirement, man.
Right.
God's not looking for perfection. He's looking for persistence. That's the difference, man. We think God ain't looking for perfection, man. He's looking for persistence.
God is not looking for perfection. God is looking for persistence.
Persistence, bro. That's what he's looking for, man.
Hard work, dedication, loyalty, those things of that nature.
He looking to see, yo, you trying.
Yeah.
You trying. He know it ain't easy. He know it's not. Let me tell you how you know it's not easy. Jesus is actually the second savior. Adam was the first.
Right.
So Adam failed, so he sent Jesus. He knew he knew man couldn't do it, so he had to send a man filled with God to do it. He said, I'm God and I barely made it, son.
These guys ain't gonna cut it.
Yo, these guys, he's like, yo, I'm God and I barely made it. And I'm God. So he's like, I already know this about to be hard for you. So I'm not looking for you to be perfect. I just want you to be persistent. That's all. Just be persistent.
Well, I think so something that I wanted to ask you, like, do you think that in terms, we're talking about America now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just in my opinion, it seems like America isn't as religiously driven anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that plays a role in some of the negative outcomes that we're seeing in society today? Like, do you think if we were more in tune with God and Jesus and the church, would our outcomes collectively be better?
From a scripturally speaking, I can say yes.
Okay.
You know, because anytime a people can come together and agree on something, I believe God will respond.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I believe that that's the case. But also, I look at it like this: as long as man has a will, there will always be that split, if you will, in our society, because man just has a will. You know, if more people got on the same page, well, I'll put it like this: the only reason I feel that America, for example, haven't been destroyed already is because the church is in the earth. It's because of people praying on a daily basis on behalf of our country. Is why I believe that we're even still around this seat. We look at crime, we say, yeah, crime is high, murder's here, this high, this here. But trust me, if Satan could have free reign, it could be 100 times, 1,000 times worse. People don't understand how much God is really protecting us from.
Right.
I'm saying, you got to understand, Satan doesn't sleep. So the 8 hours that we are allegedly sleeping a night, who is protecting us while we're resting?
Right.
So the devil and his workers they don't sleep. So when you think about, you know, spiritual warfare and all this type of stuff, you have to look at it like this. If it wasn't for the church in the earth right now, praying on behalf of everybody else, we would have been. I'm saying we would have been squashed us out, man. You know, because we're no better than Sodom and Gomorrah in the Old Testament. We have surpassed what they were doing, bro.
Well, it's definitely getting. You know, we 80s babies, so we existed. We're like the last generation before the internet really came about. We knew what it was like to play outside. I think we had a more natural, more genuine childhood than a lot of the kids do today.
Yeah.
And it has gotten progressively worse in a lot of ways. I think it's gotten progressively better in a lot of ways and things like that. But that makes me want to ask you, I know you got 2 kids. You know, I have 3. How do we shield our kids from, or provide our children with the armor to deal with the things that are out there today that weren't necessarily out there when we were coming up?
Well, that's a good question. Every generation of children that are born are equipped to manage their generation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like for example, what we think may be extreme to us is because we grew up in the 80s and the 90s. But to our children, it's normal now.
Yeah.
It's normal in their lives because it's all they know.
Right.
So it's like as far as you can only shield your children but so much, you know, and we try to do it to the best of our ability, you know, but at the end of the day, they're going to be exposed. It's our job to try to mitigate that exposure. Mm-hmm. You know, when they are exposed, this is what my wife and I do. When they are exposed to what we may feel is unacceptable, instead of doing like maybe what our parents did and never talking about it, we have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to let them know. You know,
I agree.
If my daughter sees a high schooler who is pregnant, we have to talk about it, bro. We can't just be like, you know, we just praying for, you know.
Right. It's got to be a real life, like a real life conversation.
No, we have to have a real life conversation. Like, this is what went down, and you're not trying to be this person. You know, you have to have, you know, the days of, you know, of not talking to our children. If we're going to shield them or protect them, we have to keep them informed. Right. You know, my son came home when we had the attack on Capitol Hill. He was like, Daddy, I was praying for you. You know, they were showing the news and people were attacking Capitol Hill. So I had to explain to him what was happening. You know, I had to say, this is what happened. Every year, I've explained to them what happened on 9/11 because they advertise it now.
Right.
I'm saying, so I have to let them know, well, why did this happen? Well, why did these people do this? Why did this happen? We have to explain it to them. So to answer your question in a roundabout way is, I think the key to helping our children is you just got to be honest with them.
Yeah.
You got to be honest with them, man. And trust me, they know more than what we think. Just like we knew more than what our parents thought we knew.
We have to be willing to remember how much we knew that our parents thought we didn't know.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, so I think that's the that's the key, you know. But it's like, man, it's like almost anything goes right now in our society. It's like anything is green light, man, and it's you know, that's why, you know, we as a family have personally said, you know, we don't want to have any more children. Not because we're afraid of having kids, but the pressure of being a parent, a black parent at that, of navigating a new child through this world is pressure I don't want to have to endure. I'm working on 2 right now. I don't want to endure that for a 3rd time.
Yeah. And I mean, it's definitely you know, we all have a fear of the unknown. You know, I have an 18-year-old, so I got one that's, you know, technically an adult. I got Libby's 5. My youngest is 1. And I'm just like, man, I have no idea what the future holds for them.
Nope.
It makes me fearful. And I try to teach them, like, you have to be able to use your mind, your own volition. You got to know who you are, and you got to be able to read people. But it's like, as a parent, you just, you know, I can only prepare you for the world. I can't fight the world for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's scary. But I wanted something else I wanted to get into about, not specifically, not a specific topic, but I know that you're an author too.
Yeah.
You know, so let's talk about your books. Tell me about some of your books that you've written, and you know, and topics and all of that.
Well, I got a couple of books. You know, when I got into the writing thing, you know, I started off kind of low key with mostly the topics dealing with, you know, Christians in the church. You know, one of the topics is on communication in the marriage. Another the topic was on how to avoid cheating in your relationship. Another topic was on, you know, salvation, serving in the home. So my goal or my passion has always been to make faith relevant.
Right.
So just to make faith relevant to everyday life. I think that, you know, the way I grew up, you know, my dad was a pastor. I come from a background of faith. You know, I just think that faith should be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't make it relevant, like, I can't, giving you the scenario of, you know, Jesus and the donkey sounds good, but I got to bring that thing up the gate so that you can understand.
Yeah.
You know, I got to use modern day terms. So, like, and so one of my favorite books is, you know, God's Road to Success. You know, I believe that particular book, it just helps a regular person who knows nothing about faith at all.
What's the name of it again?
It's I think it's The Road to Success. Let me confirm, because, you know, I wrote those couple books. So let me give you the exact title.
That's the one that you wrote?
Yeah. Let me look.
Pull that up. Road to Success.
Road to Success. Let me pull it up. I think I wrote that one a little while ago.
Yeah, I can't find it right here, right now. I know you got the Am I series. Am I lost? Am I going to heaven? Am I positive?
I'm pulling it up right now. It's let me see where that joint at.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to get that one.
Yeah, it's called Am I Lost? And it says a simple roadmap to your destiny.
Oh, okay, Am I Lost? So that's the
Am I Lost?
Okay.
Yeah. So what that is, it's like a ground zero of finding your path in life, man. You know, finding your path in the Christian faith. So that's definitely one of my favorite ones. And one of my other favorite ones is We Barely Talk Anymore, 10 Principles of Effective Communication.
Can you see that?
Can you see it? It's a mirror.
Yeah, it's kind of. Let me see. Can I? Yeah, I think it's because of my light. You can't see it, but it's on
It's on Amazon. All the books on Amazon.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. You know, so the one We Barely Talk Anymore, 10 Principles of Communication. I wrote that book out of my marriage. You know, my wife and I, we've been married going on 15 years now, and we went through a little rough patch there. You know, I basically blew some money, and, you know, we lost the house, we lost the cars. You know what I mean? You know, it's you know, I make it public knowledge. I made some bad financial decisions, and when we went through a little patch there where we wasn't talking, and that book was birthed out of that. So, you know, those 10 principles in that particular book help us get back to being able to communicate, because most marriages fail that I counsel because ain't nobody communicate, man. Nobody don't talk. No, I'm saying you've been mad for 3 weeks and you don't talk. You know, and I'm a type of husband, type of man where if we upset, you know, we gotta talk. Now you may not be ready to talk right now.
Right.
You know, I'll give you some time to cool off, to kind of cool down or whatever. But I'm not gonna sit up in my house and we mad at each other.
Right.
You know, well, let's just talk. Let's just get it out in the open. Let's just deal with it like adults, and then we just move on to the next journey.
Right.
You know, so that's definitely one that birthed out of real life experience, living with your wife, with kids, not talking.
Yeah, I think that's important. You said something that I think is really important too, is that the Bible is such an old text.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to use examples from today, real life example, people that we can talk to and touch and call and actually interact with. Mm-hmm. Because this, you know, how you just said, like, that book was birthed out of, you know, a disagreement, a struggle that you and your wife were having at the time. That's the same transmutation, just a modern story of something's not good, is transmuted, and that was an actual book that say I or somebody else can read and help them get through whatever something that they're dealing with, that too. So that's extremely important.
Yeah, I think that, you know, what I've learned with the author world is, you know, our kids and this generation coming up, you know, I'm not gonna say they don't read, but that's not their means of interpreting faith.
Right.
They are interpreting faith from like lives like this and podcasts, because they are of the social media world.
Right. That's
their
life.
I mean? They not downloading Kindles.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They did. That's not their path. You know, that's why a lot of pastors and a lot of leaders are starting to transition and recognize, yo, I gotta get a podcast. I gotta do something to communicate. If you're gonna reach back, you have to meet people where they are. You know,
Right.
you know, so like when I first started doing the podcast, I did the podcast on that particular book, and I did it in a talking format. You know, and I believe more people will receive it from the talking format than they would actually picking up the book and read it. Unless you a big time author, you well known, you famous or something like that,
Yeah.
people gonna pick up your book. You know, but the crazy thing about it is they'll pick up your book or whatever, but they'll still stream the audio.
Yeah.
People just don't take the time to sit down and read books anymore.
Right.
You know, so I think when you say, like, you know, the Bible being an old school text, you know, it's you have to bring it to where we are in 2021. If you don't, you know, it's going to be, you know, challenging. But that's why I say it's a calling, it's a gift. You know, God has to give you, you know, to illuminate your mind to be able to translate into modern day times.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where the separates a bookie pastor who has all the degrees hanging on the wall from the regular Joe who God has really called and anointed, because God opens up their mind to speak to the people of today's time.
Yeah.
You know, he understands no one out here is trading, you know, doves and goats and bulls anymore. We out here pushing, you know, cryptocurrency.
Right.
You know what I mean? The church is like, yo, your tithe and offer sound good, but we Catholics up in here.
Right.
Yeah, you know, you gotta get on board. If you want to protect the church, you gotta be able to. You gotta change with the time. Every season changes ministry.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife. It was either last night or the day before yesterday, and I was telling her too. Like, I look at the Bible in terms of how you can take a story from the Bible and interpret it in terms of today. I say that because I think a lot of people, like, there's this weird sense of entitlement that a lot of Americans have now. Like, they shouldn't have to go to work. Other people should go to work, and they should tax them so that, you know, so that I can do nothing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was telling her, like I was asking you about us getting away from religion and away from, you know, the Bible and things of that nature. I think that that's one of the core principles behind the story of Jesus. Is like, he had to carry that cross.
Yep.
Right? And it's like, yo, you're here. No one is going to necessarily carry that for you. Now, your dad might, your mama might, but if I don't know you like that, I'm probably not carrying your cross for you.
Yeah.
So whether you agree or disagree with capitalism, or you're a socialist, or whatever the case may be, we can't all carry each other's cross. It just doesn't work like that. That's why I think that's why the world is created the way it is. Like, I can only experience my life experience through my filter. I could never see it. I will never see the world, not this time around, at least, as Kenton Wiley.
Yeah.
So that means whatever burden was written in the book of life for Marcello Bradley, that's me this time.
Yeah.
I gotta deal with that, and I think that's something that's important too. Let me ask you this before we go, because I ain't gonna keep you too much longer.
I got
you. One question I always ask all my guests is to give me 5 people, dead or alive, real people or fictional, that you would want to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with.
5 people.
5 people. You probably run through the first 4 pretty easy, but I'm listening.
So, well, you know, I always say, as an adult, I would like to have a sit-down conversation with my dad. My dad passed when I was, I think I was 19. I was 19 when he was passed. Now, you know, I had a good dad. Well, he wasn't no deadbeat, not like that. He was a good dad. But the conversation I would have with him today, at almost being 40, would be a totally different conversation versus the last conversation I had with him when I was just entering grad school. You know, so that would always be a conversation I would love to have, man, because, you know, I think that though I feel like where I am in life is a good place in life, and I believe I'm a good dad, I'm a good husband, stuff like that. But, you know, he never experienced my marriage. He never met any of my children. You know, so I feel like that would be, you know, there's a lot of wily ground that I'm trying to instill in my kids that they don't have a image of what it looked like before me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that would definitely be, you know, definitely be at the top of my list. Who else I would like to sit down and talk to? I have to say Barack Obama, man. You know, I would love to sit and have a obviously being the first African American president of this country. You know, I would like to know. You know, obviously we know the journey that he has written. You know, but the path that he traveled to be the first to walk into the White House and it be a place not only 4 years but 8. You know, how did you navigate that and raise your kids?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm saying, how did you? That would be a very, very, very serious conversation. I would like to have. Who else we got? Man, that's a good one. Let me see. I know a lot of people would, you know, want to sit down with a bunch of famous people, but I'm into, like, you know, regular Joes, man. You know,
I am too. That's why I started doing this show. I was like, yo, it's so cool to actually sit down and interview people, like people that you actually know, that you can call, or that you know you can truly depend on. You can touch them. Like, yo, people have a lot of things to talk about, a lot of ideas and stuff. So that's why I was just like, yo, I'm about to just start a show and start talking to people.
Yeah, I think that, you know, who else would I put on my list that I would like to sit down and talk to? Man, you know, from a religious perspective, I've met T.D. Jakes. When he came to D.C. But I
he signed your book, right?
Huh?
Then he autograph your book?
Autograph my book, yeah.
I
would love to, from a religious perspective, I would love to sit down and talk with him, because I think from a modern day perspective in the faith, he's like the Mecca of faith right now in the world. I think he's one of the most recognized faith of the Christian faith.
Right.
You know, so I would love just to sit down and see his journey, because a lot of people don't know his first mega church was white in West Virginia.
Really?
In West Virginia.
I did not know that, bro.
Yeah, his first mega church that he had was in West Virginia, and it was like predominantly white.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He used to walk to church and pastor that all-white church in West Virginia.
He a bad dude. That makes him even more of a bad dude.
Exactly. He on a whole nother level. So I would love to sit down with him. Who else you got? Let me think. You know, cause my industry is, when I think about life, I think about, you know, music, and I think about, you know, music is one of my big ones, and faith, obviously. So another person I would like to sit down with would be Michael Jackson.
MJ, okay. Well, so real quick, because I don't want us to get cut off. Instagram cut me off at the hour.
Okay.
For my first one, real quick, what is it about? Melissa says she got her 5 ready. You cheating, Melissa? Because I'm gonna have to change the question up for you. Okay. What is it about Mike Jackson that you would want to ask him about?
I just want to ask him, like, you know, some people, I just want to be in their presence. I don't even think I would even ask him anything.
Right.
I would just like to be any man who can stand still and people think, I gotta be in your presence, man. What?
Yeah.
Yo, like, you just can't really put what he did to music into really words, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's just certain people you just like. I just want to just to be a front row of one of his concerts in his prime.
Right.
Like, to experience that emotionally, you know, just to be like, oh, what? And another one be, you know, not to get cut off, you know, I would love to sit down and talk to Oprah.
Oprah? Okay. Yeah. What would you ask Oprah?
I would ask Oprah, you know, did you ever think you would be this big? When you were doing the news channel in Baltimore with an afro.
But she got fired, right? Did she get fired?
Yeah.
She got fired at one point.
Did you ever think that you would be the face of talk show?
Right.
And a billionaire.
Let's do the rundown. You got your father.
Mm-hmm.
You got Barack Obama. You got Oprah Winfrey. You got T.D. Jakes.
T.D. Jakes.
And who was the last
fifth one?
Michael Jackson.
Huh? Let me think. Who will be 5, man?
You gave me 5 already.
Did I give you 5?
You gave me your father.
Uh-huh.
You gave me T.D. Jakes. You gave me Oprah Winfrey. You gave me Michael Jackson. And you gave me Barack Obama.
Oh, that is 5. Yeah.
So that's your 5. That's it. You don't get no more. Ain't no honorable mentions.
That's 5 right there.
On the next episode, you can get. When we do it again next month for 2-3 months from now, you can give me 5 more. Yo.
Gotcha. I'll be ready then.
Yo, real quick, I just want to tell you I appreciate you for coming on, talking to me. I know you got your podcast, you got your books, you got the Never Alone Christian Center. If you ever want to get me on something, more than willing to come chop it up with you, I'll give you my perspective.
We gotta definitely get you on.
And all of that good stuff. You know me, I read the Bible. I'm a spiritual guy and all of that good stuff. So I love you. You my man. You my brother.
I love you too, man.
Hit me up. You got any questions for me?
No, I think we good. I think this is good, man. I think this is a good podcast. I think it's a very open, transparent platform. And like you said, the reality of it is the 98% of us in this world, we not famous. But we got plenty to talk about.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
We got to talk about, man.
Right. Cool. Well, I appreciate you, brother. I'll hit you up in a little bit. Get home safely. I know you said your daughter was doing the dance thing.
I got about 30 minutes and we'll be done.
All right, man. Well, hit me up. I'll holler.
All right, later.
Peace out.